Hello, friends. Hope all of you are doing well. We had an intense month of May which passed by. Just preceding that, we had the dastardly attack at Pahalgam and the counter measures which were taken by the Indian government and spearheaded headed by our army. So, in this situation, who has emerged as the clear winner out of this engagement between India and Pakistan? Well, the Indian Army did demolish 11 Pakistani air bases. Pakistan did threaten our air bases and also went on to make an announcement that they have destroyed the S 400 and they have downed some say 2 Rafale jets, some said 4 Rafale jets, some said 3 Rafale jets without any evidence, as clearly is been the history of the Pakistani juggernaut. Evidence is not something which they are interested in. So, who has emerged as a clear winner? Can I say something which could be a bit startling, a bit difficult to digest, and not something that we as Indians would like to hear? In my analysis, the clear winner out of this engagement is the Pakistani military high command. I have my reasons why I say so. Also, when I am saying Pakistani military high command, I am also making a clear distinction between the Pakistani military high command and the Pakistani army. I am by no means am I saying that the Pakistani army has come out as a winner. No way. How would you decide on who is a winner and who is a loser? The purpose with which you engage yourself into an activity and whether your purpose has been fulfilled or not, that is what is going to clearly define whether you are a winner or not. So, what was the purpose of the Pakistani military high command in getting into this engagement? If you have noticed, over the last 2 to 3 years, the Pakistani economy has been in doldrums. They have been running from pillar to post, trying to uh, approach every so called friendly nation which they deem to be friendly to them. They have been approaching the IMF. They have managed to get the maximum number of bailouts which any other country has never been able to achieve, but Pakistan has gone to that extent of getting the maximum IMF bailouts. That was the situation in which Pakistan has been over the past years. Quite evidently, this has also taken a toll on the reputation of the Pakistani army, their very existence. And why is it that the Pakistani machinery should spend this much amount on their defense forces anyway, who lead a life quite different than the ordinary Pakistani? In order to maintain their relevance amongst the Pakistani population, it was pertinent that the Pakistani army does something really significant to convince the Pakistani population about their requirement and about their relevance. How can any particular rogue military establishment emphasize its relevance? It can do so by artificially creating a situation, a grim situation, where they are called in to defend the nation. It's as simple as that. Most Pakistanis lately had been increasingly believing and had been rightly believing that whatever has been fed to them over the past 70 years is not what the truth was. They have increasingly been realizing that India has never been the aggressor. Be it 1965 Operation Gibraltar, where very clearly Pakistan, which was led by a general, wanted to attack Kashmir, create a situation where the Kashmiris themselves will start demanding cessation from India, and then they easily capture Kashmir. That is what their intention was in 1965. 1975, 71, well, we all know 3 million Bengalis were massacred. The refugee crisis of Bangladesh, and India unwillingly had to be part of this particular engagement, which eventually resulted in Bangladesh getting formed. 1999, what happened? Pervez Musharraf sent his forces into Kargil. India never entered POK or Pakistani territory, and all India could do was India defended ourselves, and we did not even cross the LOC in 1999. So all these facts were increasingly coming to the fore, and the ordinary Pakistani was beginning to realize that this is what is the truth. This was sounding alarm bells for the Pakistani military high command. It was high time that they poke India so hard such that that will invoke an apt response from the Indian Defence Forces. Post Uri, post Balakot, the Pakistani Defence Forces were very sure that if they poke us again, India, under the current political dispensation, will have no qualms in giving a fitting reply. So, the 9 locations which were targeted with surgical precision by the Indian Defence Forces is exactly what the Pakistani High Command actually wanted. If it was a skirmish at the border, it's no good. They wanted something far more than that. And that is why this time they chose an attack of the most heinous kind. They attacked 26 innocent tourists, and that was with 2 agendas. One, as we discussed, to invoke a serious response from the Indian Defence Forces, and second was to break the back of the Kashmiri economy. The Kashmiri tourism, which was thriving over the past few years, especially after the abrogation of Article 370, they wanted to break its back. These were the twin agendas with which they carried out this attack. I was personally in Pahalgam just 2 weeks before the attack. All these areas I have well visited. I have described these things in the initial video which we had shot in our Pahalgam series. So I very well knew the pulse of the ordinary Kashmiri there, what he thought, how he was so thrilled that the extent of tourism which they are able to enjoy right now, and the amount of money which they are able to make, something which they could never do ever. The support in the valley for Pakistani agents was dwindling by the day. I am not saying that there is no support in the Kashmir valley for the Pakistani cause, but it is nowhere compared to what it was few decades ago. And we were very soon going to see a day where the Kashmir Valley would have been totally, completely integrated culturally and of course politically with the Indian mainland. Pakistan had to do something, and that is where this Pahalgam attack happened. So, quite unfortunately, it actually has happened, and it actually translated into something which the Pakistani establishment wanted, the military high command wanted. What is the evidence? Just see, hardly few days that the ceasefire has been announced, and General Asim Munir is now promoted to Field Marshal. In the month of May itself, the Pakistani army has demanded an increase of 18.8% against their defense budgets. Already, for a poor, impoverished nation like Pakistan, spending almost $19 billion on their defense is not something less. Can they even afford something like that? Not at all. And now they are further demanding an increase in budget. Now, if you look at India's defense budget, yes, it is definitely far, far, far more than that. But it is well justified by the difference, stark difference in the GDPs. Just very recently, just one state of India, Tamil Nadu, has overtaken the entire GDP of Pakistan. That is how it lies. Now, even this defense budget of Pakistan, this allocation, where is it being spent? Is it being spent to build military assets? Not entirely. A large chunk of this budget is just simply gone to operationally sustain this large defense team. These are just operational costs, and that is not going to help in the event of a war between India and Pakistan. The Pakistani army is actually an exception in terms of any other army in the world. This is more like a military capitalist conglomerate. Now, the job of any particular military is as simple as that, to defend the country. Pakistani army does not subscribe to that. They are least bothered. What is the evidence? 1971, 93,000 of their soldiers were posted in East Bangladesh. Entire East Pakistan was cut off from them, and with 93,000 soldiers posted there, all they could do is offer a meek surrender and come back to West Pakistan rejoicing. Which army in the world does that? This was actually the largest surrender of any army after the World War. So that is Pakistani army, ladies and gentlemen. When is the ordinary Pakistani going to realize that what sort of an army are they feeding? The taxpayers' money is being spent to sustain this sort of an army. Every other occasion, the Pakistani army has only disappointed. Even in 2025, Pahalgam, post Pahalgam, when the Indian Air Force attacked, their Air Force was just caught napping. The future of this evil conglomerate, the Pakistani military high command. And why it has been sustaining all this while. A poor nation like Pakistan, which when it was formed in 1947, the first thing its creator, Mr. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, did was go to the US with a begging bowl. All he said was that, I have created a nation, but I have got no money to run it. That was the beginning of this evil nexus, I would really call it, between the West and Pakistan. Well, the Indian army today and for last thousands of years, on most occasions, has been fighting a dharmic war. They have been fighting to safeguard. And they are also willing to shed their own lives if the need be. That is how the Indian army has been operating. Quite in contrast has been the way the Pakistani army has been operating, as we saw in 1971 or so. Even the Pakistani political establishment is hand in glove with the high command, and for good reasons. If they are not, they either get assassinated or they have to take refuge in some other nation. Evidence: Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif. And more so, even Mrs. Bhutto was assassinated. Imran Khan is languishing in the jail. Nothing happens in Pakistan without the consent of the Pakistani army. So, where does the West come in here? The West, for the West, Pakistan is a land of roses, I would say. It is that icing on the cake to make sure that their large armament manufacturers are sustained. They supply F-16 to Pakistan. Of course, they do mention that they can't use this against India, but in an event of war, definitely Pakistan is going to use their F-16s against India. The West will route taxpayers' money into Pakistan, and that same taxpayers' money, which is routed as aid into Pakistan, will be routed back to their arms manufacturers against the bill which has been footed by them for supplying F-16s, maybe F-35, and every other advanced military equipment. Now, suppose a situation arises where Pakistan is not able to foot the bill and there is increasing restrictions on the inflow of aid into Pakistan. In that situation, what will they do? Please remember, one portion of Pakistan occupied Kashmir has been gifted by Pakistan to China, the northern tip. So, Pakistan is actually sitting on large tracts of land, right? And the way they have been fooling their public, and their public is willing to be fooled for over these 70 years, they would still give or donate some portion further, if the need be, of Pakistani land to the West or to China in return for funds for equipment. And the Pakistani public will again be seen rejoicing how it is a victory for them. So, these kind of means are available with Pakistan. The CPEC, $50 billion is what China is pumping in. And it's almost like that entire corridor from Gwadar right up to POK belongs to China. It's almost that entire territory has been sold off to China by Pakistan. Quite interestingly, Pakistan does not even have a border with China. If you closely observe, the northern tip is either POK or it is Afghanistan. That important is POK for China as well, because that corridor passes through it. When India will take POK back is something to be really seen, an extremely sensitive issue, because now even China has got its stakes in that. Now, how do we counter this entire menace? Because we have an enemy which is not even willing to be tested on ground through an engagement of war. In 1971, when Indian army was nowhere close to what it is today, even during then, we could easily defeat them within 14 days. And with 93,000 of them standing, they offered a surrender. So this is what they will keep doing. Now within 4 days, they ran scampering and asked for a ceasefire, because their purpose was anyway fulfilled. That was, the deal was done. And honestly, as far as India thought, India's purpose was also fulfilled. We wanted to teach Pakistan a so-called lesson, which we did by attacking initially their 9 terrorist bases and later on their 11 air bases. So deal done for either parties. Unfortunately, still the Pakistani military high command has the edge and they have actually emerged victorious according to me here. Not the Pakistani army, again I am clarifying. And what about the Indian army? Definitely, it is a great victory for them, no doubt. Something which they have never done previously, not because they couldn't do it, but because the political establishments before have never allowed them to do it. So it's a great high which which the Indian army has now achieved over the Pakistani army. No doubts about that. But we need to now get a clear solution to this menace. It's not easy because please understand, the West is a huge supporter for this evil nexus within Pakistan. They will keep supporting it. Look at Trump, who on one hand has been appreciative of Narendra Modi, who always goes around saying he is my great friend, but when the situation comes, he will help approve the IMF loan in the middle of the skirmish. You can expect more of this. The West will not allow Pakistan to go down. Pakistani army will keep denying how much ever evidences you show them of the Pahalgam attack. Even Pathankot, where we actually allowed their military personnel to come and land in Pathankot and personally investigate, still they kept on denying. The 26/11 attack, we gave them evidences, they kept on denying. So this constant denial mode, and if we think that this is the method to reign in Pakistan, no, sorry. The very creation of Pakistan itself is with an evil intent. They wanted separatism. They stated that they can't live with India. They can't live with Hindus. That is the separatism with which Pakistan has been created in the first place. A nation which has been created with this kind of an intent is never ever going to do justice to its own people at all. Forget about doing justice to its own neighbors. Can we get a complete revival within the Pakistani establishment? Honestly, I'm not even sure how can we get it done. But we have to understand the root cause of the problem, and that was the intent of this particular discussion which I am having with all of you viewers. Let us first pinpoint with surgical precision where the real problem lies, which is what we have just discussed now. And that is where now we can think about the possible solution. The solution is going to be multi-pronged. It will necessitate extreme levels of diplomacy, which fortunately, thankfully, right now our diplomatic mission is in safe hands of our Foreign Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar. I'm not sure that anybody else could have done even any better justice to it, which he has been doing, but it's a long haul. It's a really long haul. We have to keep cornering Pakistan, not allow them any room anywhere. That sense of awareness, once you understand the problem accurately, you stand a chance to get in a solution. I'm absolutely sure that we will. We can actually talk a bit more elaborately on the solution portion in another video. Definitely we will do that. Thank you very much for listening.